Okay, well, I think I misspoke in my last video. The Golden Globe nominations come out tomorrow, tomorrow being the 9th of December. But here we are today, it's the day before, and we're going to go ahead and give the final predictions here for who's nominated and who I think is not going to get nominated, or at least who could also be nominated for the Golden Globe Awards. This is the 82nd, I believe, but yeah. And yeah, just looking at the categories here, we'll go through the, because there's only 4 tech categories, so to speak, of the Globes. So we'll kind of go through them, and we will just talk about what I think is in, what could get in, and leave it at that. We do have the LA Film Critics. They're announcing their winners actually as we speak. They're up to at least Best Director. They've got a couple other categories still outstanding, but they got a few to go. But anyways, we'll go ahead. We'll get started here with the predictions for Golden Globes. Hopefully it's not too far off, because as you can tell, I'm sporting an Alabama shirt today for, well, at least their softball program. But they got left out of the college football playoffs today. That's interesting. But yeah, we're not here for that. We're here for some film stuff. So without further ado, let's get into the predictions here for the Globes. And for film not in an English language, there's 6. Remember, there's, like last year, there's 6 nominees per category, barring any ties. So we'll go ahead and just predict the 6 here. And I have these in alphabetical order here. Again, my alphabetical order on a couple of categories might be a little different, but we'll go with it. Film not in English language. I have All the Light We Imagine, Emilia Perez, I'm Still Here, Kneecap, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, and Universal Language as my 6. And I feel okay about these. All the Light We Imagine, and I believe, is it Universal Language? A couple of these are not going to be eligible for the Oscars this year. They were just not submitted by their home country. All the Light We Imagine being the big one. That's kind of like Anatomy of a Fall last year. It's one where it's like, yeah, they just, for whatever reason, just it wasn't their pick. But it is one that a lot of critics have enjoyed. It's one that really has kind of made the rounds here and there. But I believe that's the only one right now I have that's not going to be in the running. Otherwise, for the other ones that could break in, the one that I think is still very much in play at the Oscars, and again, they like to do this in recent years, more so at the Oscars than at the Globes. That's why I'm not predicting it for the Globes tomorrow. And that's Flow, which is going to be up for, I believe, animated feature at the Oscars. And it's, we'll see. We'll see if I put it in here for the Globes as well. I could totally see that getting the 2 nominations at the Oscars. So that's coming from Latvia. We've also got, let's see, what was a couple of the other ones that everyone's... I haven't gone totally in depth with this category just yet. Again, I like to see what the short lists do before we take a deeper dive here about, okay, what are the films about? What are people kind of thinking about here? But I've heard a couple people like 12 the Day from South Korea. A couple people like Memory Lane from Netherlands. The Girl with the Needle from Denmark. I've noticed a few people have name checked as well. See, otherwise, I like a few people like And So It Begins from the Philippines as well. So, I mean, it's always a little bit of a crapshoot here at the Globes. They will sometimes go with a couple of contenders that are not submitted by their home country, as long as they're campaigned at the Globes. Remember, it is a much smaller voting body there at the Globes than the Oscars comparatively. And Globes used to be only like, 80 people, but now it's in the hundreds now, last I saw, but yeah. Anyways, we'll move on here. Best Animated Feature is up next, and in alphabetical order, I have these as Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Moana 2, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robot. And I feel pretty comfortable with these 6. The only few I think that could break in here, if they go more populist, I would look out for Despicable Me 4. Sometimes the Globes in this category do like to go more populist. It's been, the last couple of years I feel like they have gone for more of the smaller fare, more independent fare or international fare. So stuff like Flow, I think a couple of years ago would have, or maybe even a little further back, probably 3, 4, 5 years ago, would have really struggled here at the Globes to get a nomination. This year, I think, for example, it's probably in. Not like 100% a guarantee, but I think it's in. Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim is one I've been bouncing back and forth with keeping in my Oscar predictions. If it shows up here tomorrow, that's a real sign of strength for it. Piece by Piece, I think, is one, again, if enough voters see it, they might like it. And then there is Chicken for Linda and The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, or a couple other ones I've heard some people talk about. The only other one I would name check here, just in case, is Spellbound, because it's a Netflix animated one. And I think Netflix overall is going to do pretty well at the Globes this year. You'll see in my predictions I've got one of the films that I think is going to lead nominations is from Netflix. So not that that means that, everything comes from Netflix, but I don't know. I just think it might be a little bit of an easier jaunt for some of the voters, because if it's on Netflix, they're easier to get to. In the original song category, I've got two from Emilia Perez to start off with, El Mal and Mi Camino. I also have I Always Wanted a Brother. That's from Mufasa the Lion King. Piece by Piece from Piece by Piece. Like a Bird from Sing Sing. And Kiss the Sky from The Wild Robot. So that's the films in alphabetical order, by the way, not necessarily the songs. So in this case, the one I have at the Oscars that I don't have here is the 6888, and that's, of course, the Diane Warren song. Diane Warren, if it's not a huge film or bigger film on the Oscar spectacle, one that more voters have watched, she typically does not get in here at the Globe, so that's the reason I'm keeping her out. Beyond from Moana 2 is a very, very possible contender. I don't think the Globes are going to go for like the Elton John song from Never Too Late, the documentary, nor I think are they going to go with the Joker song Folie à Deux, and I think that's probably the last one there. A couple people I've heard do like the chance going forward, also at the Oscars possibly for maybe one or two songs from Twisters to possibly break in. I wouldn't be like blown out of my seat. I wouldn't be like completely shocked if it gets in tomorrow, but it's not really. I don't know. I mean, with the artists behind it, they're not like on the level of like a Taylor Swift or a Selena Gomez or like some of the Ariana Grande even. Some of these artists that like are just known, everywhere, and that's stuff that they will usually. In other words, these aren't artists that are typically going for films that get into Oscars. Like country artists don't always do that. Some of them, if they can collaborate with like. Joel and Ethan Coen or something on a musical, I'm thinking of like Ballad of Buster Scruggs, something like that. If they were to do that, I think they'd have a better shot. But in this case, I'm going to leave it out for now for the Globes. So moving on now to the original score category. My 6 here are Conclave, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, The Brutalist, Wicked, and The Wild Robot. And I kind of like these 6 films here. I kind of like their chances here. Challengers is a kind of popular one. It's not like top of the list for everybody here, but on Gold Ruby I have it. I see it's listed 5th. I'm not sure how much they're going to like Challengers. I mean, I think they'll like one particular performer in there. I think they want to get one of their actors nominated. Again, we'll get to that category here in a few minutes. But aside from that, I don't know how much they're watching the movie. Again, it's not a lot of voters here, so if enough of them did see it and they liked it, then I can see Challengers breaking in here. It could also break in potentially in a different acting category and the film category, but I'm not so high on its chances here, particularly in this category. Otherwise, Blitz, it's another one. I have that one still in at the Oscars. That's Hans Zimmer. But part of the reason I have Hans Zimmer in at the Oscars for that one is because Dune Part 2, I believe Warner Brothers is trying to lobby for that one to get in, but I think the branch has already said we're probably not going to nominate it. Not enough original material in the score. Globes, I don't think they worry about that as much, so they went ahead and we haven't heard anything about them disqualifying that film or anything, so I believe with Dune Part 2, I think being arguably a more popular film, I think it's going to maybe land some more top categories than something like Blitz at the Globes here tomorrow. I think Dune Part 2 stands a better shot. And then I am going Wicked here. I'm not going with Wicked at the Oscars just yet in the score category, but I think it could break in. If Wicked's popularity is enough, I can see them name dropping it and just putting it in for score. But here at the Globes, I'm like, I think Wicked is one. This is a shot where Wicked can get more, I shouldn't say more top categories, but I would say if, and we're not there yet, but when we get to like the directing category, for example, if John M. Chu does show up tomorrow on the Globes list, it's like, okay, they just really liked Wicked. And because it's the comedy musical category, and sometimes they go in big on some of the musicals. I remember, West Side Story scored pretty well here 3 years ago and everything. It's like when you get these big budget, kind of big Halliaboo musicals, if you will, sometimes they go all out and they may be nominated sometimes in bigger spots and more spots than the Oscars do. Otherwise, in this category, I know The Room Next Door is one some people have picked out. Gladiator 2, some people like. Saturday Night, some people like. The Substance kind of feels like a bit of a dark horse to get in, but I think, I'm okay with the ones I have. For screenplay, my 6 are A Real Pain, Anora, Conclave, Emilia Perez, Saturday Night, and The Brutalist. And I'm kind of taking a gamble, especially on Saturday Night. This, I hate to say it, it kind of feels like the last stand for Saturday Night right here. Because I think, really, Saturday Night, I see it struggling at BAFTA. SAG, it could definitely get the Ensemble Prize, but especially if it falls out of that, then its chances are just completely dashed, I think, at the Oscars. But as far as keeping it alive for that SAG Ensemble nominee, possibly being a screenplay player at the Oscars, I think it has to get in tomorrow at the Globes for at least 1 or 2 categories. It has to stay in the public consciousness for the further voters going on down the line. And I think a nomination here in screenplay would help. Obviously, picture would help. Gabriel LaBelle getting in for Best Actor, comedy musical would really help as well. Otherwise, I think, Brutalist, Conclave, and Nora, those feel pretty good. Emilia Perez, as a musical, I think it's still okay. I think it's one that they're going to like. Real Pain, I think, is pretty solid. Some other ones that some people listed, Sing Sing, I feel like this is one, the Globes will like it. I don't know if they'll love it, and enough to put it in for screenplay. I could be wrong about that, though. The Room Next Door feels like it's within striking distance. The Substance feels like it's within striking distance as well. That could be just one of their movies. I'll also say Hard Truths as a possible spoiler here. Nickel Boys as a possible spoiler here. Those are more, especially Hard Truths. That's one that's more, if it's not really a spot for Mike Leigh, like here at the Globes, where I think he's like a huge favorite. I could still see him sneaking in for a original screenplay bid at the Oscars for the movie, especially if a couple of my other picks right now start falling out. But yeah. And then Nickel Boys to me just feels like one, just on the surface, without having seen it yet, it feels like one the Globes voters just typically, aren't going to go head over heels for. I could be dead wrong about that, and it could surprise us with like a directing nomination tomorrow, maybe an acting bid tomorrow, maybe a picture bid as well. But for right now, I'm not loving its chances in a few of those key categories. So one of those is Best Supporting Actress. That's one that it's kind of vying for at the Oscars. And boy, in retrospect, kind of looking back at this list now compared to even the last video, I say probably more emphatically this time, this is the toughest category to predict right now, because I've got these 6. I've got like at least 3, maybe 4 others in this category that I really think are still in the hunt to get at least one spot at the Oscars. But my 6 for the Globes here tomorrow are going to be Danielle Deadwyler for The Piano Lesson, Ariana Grande for Wicked, Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, Saoirse Ronan for Blitz, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, and Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. So my big one at the Oscars I'm keeping out here is Selena Gomez, and I'm probably going to switch and take her out at SAG as well. I'm gonna debate on that, because here's the big thing. I think they like Emilia Perez. Emilia Perez I expect to be one of the more nominated films tomorrow at the Globes, but here's the thing. She has Only Murders in the Building. They can take care of a nomination for her on the TV side with a nomination there. So that frees up, okay, if they do like Isabella Rossellini in Conclave, they can give her a spot. If they kind of like Blitz and they want to give it something, they can give it a spot here for Saoirse Ronan, especially if she's maybe a little shaky in the actress drama category, but we'll see. We'll see. Margaret Qualley for The Substance is one I'm also really looking at as a real possibility here. She's more or less a Hollywood royalty type, being born from some famous actors. The Substance feels like one that they have seen. I was a little surprised they did leave it in the comedy musical categories. That's, again, a reason why I wanted to wait on this video. I wanted to see if they were going to move particularly that film out of the comedy musical category and put it into the drama race. But we haven't. I've waited till the last second here, and there hasn't been any movement on it. So it's like, okay, they were okay with it. They were comfortable with it. So that's Selena Gomez and Margaret Qualley. I still say Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor for Nickel Boys is definitely within striking distance. Now, again, at the Globes tomorrow, if she gets in, does that mean she's in going forward? Let's wait. SAG is going to be a huge spot for her if she can get in at SAG. Even if it doesn't perform well at BAFTA, it would depend on who else gets those spots at BAFTA. If it's something that's kind of surging at the moment, then I can totally see her getting the SAG, probably Critics' Choice, and the Globe nominations, and then falling short. By the way, it's going to be the, let's see, what day is Critics' Choice? I think it's this week, isn't it? I believe it's this Thursday or Friday that the Globe nominations come out, or excuse me, the Critics' Choice nominations come out. But again, I always wait until those are out before we talk about them, because predicting those things is a bear. It's just they'll nominate whatever the hell they want, however many slots, so it's not even worth throwing out, okay, it could be this, you could list 10 films, and there's a chance they'll nominate all 10 in different categories. So I gave up on that a few years ago. Anyhow, I'll also say, what about Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown? That one is kind of making, a late appearance here, and, playing a, famous singer in that one that was opposite Bob Dylan. Joan Baez on so many stages and stuff, and she's been in enough of the marketing and stuff that it's like, yeah, she feels like a part of the movie, and those that have seen the movie have said, yeah, she's actually pretty decent in it, both her and Elle Fanning. But between the two, I would say on the surface, Monica Barbaro is probably the one that I think would get the bid, because she plays a more famous person, and especially the actors branch in some of these early award shows, they like actors playing actors. So yeah. Anyways, so. Yeah, that's my 6 there. It's a tough category. It's one where it's like you got to leave 1 or 2 out that you would normally put in just because it is so packed. Now on the supporting actors side, I've got Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, Clarence Macklin for Sing Sing, Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, Adam Pearson for A Different Man, I'm going a little off the track here, Stanley Tucci for Conclave, and Denzel Washington for Gladiator 2. I wanted to go somewhere a little different here, and I look at A Different Man. It's in the comedy musical category. Sebastian Stan, we'll get to his chances here in a few minutes in the lead actor category there. And I just look at the rest of this field, I'm like, I just don't know. I think the Anora supporting actors at the moment feel a little bit like they're kind of crossing each other out, because there hasn't been... I don't think there's like a clear absolute favorite between the 2 or 3 that are going to contend in that category. The Apprentice, we'll see. Jeremy Strong, is somebody. If he'd been a past nominee, especially on the movie side, I think that would have helped him. He's been a past a winner, if I'm not mistaken, on the Globe side for television, if I'm not mistaken. But I could be. I forget how many people won for Succession, but still, one of them I believe was also Kieran Culkin. So. I don't know. They could put him in. I'm not 100% sure about The Apprentice. I think people are watching it. I don't know if enough Globes voters have watched it and enjoyed it. Some, again, just with Trump being, in the news as often as he is and stuff. I don't know how many of them want to touch it. I don't know how many of them are curious about it or what have you. But I'm just not sure about that. Edward Norton was one I had pegged a long time ago to possibly play in this category, through the award season. But those who have seen the film have said, no, he's not really in it enough, or not enough crucial scenes to where he, is a solid enough contender. Josh O'Connor for Challengers is kind of an interesting one. I considered it a little bit, especially with his co-star possibly being nominated, that we'll get to here pretty shortly here. We'll see. But I couldn't pull the trigger on that. Again, both Yura Borzov and Mark Edelstein, I'm a little trigger shy on that one as well. Early on in the season, I like Samuel L. Jackson in this category for Piano Lesson, but that one has kind of faded. And really, at this rate, Danielle Deadwyler, the fact that she did get in at the Globes last time is what kept me keeping her in the nominations this time. Again, it's a film, I don't think she's in first place to win anymore across a lot of these. I think Zoe has kind of taken up. Ariana Grande's on the move in a lot of these races and stuff. So I don't think, and I think now she's really at a risk of falling out of the Oscar race as well, because Piano Lesson, even though it is on Netflix, this kind of feels like one of those passing with Ruth Negga. It kind of feels like possibly Timothée Chalamet with Beautiful Boy. It just feels like one of those that could fall out of that respective candidacy. So, yeah, and when I looked at it, I'm like, Adam Pearson, it feels like he's been one I've heard. He's been on the campaign trail. He's been talking to people. He's been, with Sebastian Stan in a few of these one-on-ones, or not one-on-ones, I should say, but a few of these joint interviews. It can't be one-on-one if there's two of them and an interviewer. That doesn't make sense. The math doesn't math there. But I don't know. I think it's, again, if it's a charming enough movie to them, enough of them have seen it and liked it, they can put him in. So I'm going with a little bit of a wild card there and going with Adam Pearson. Not sure if he gets in tomorrow. I don't think that means he's in going forward. Nothing like that. I just think he could be one of those that gets in at the Globes, and then we'll see where he goes from there. All right, moving on to the leading categories now for acting. Best Actress, Comedy or Musical. I'm going with Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Mikey Madison for Honora, Demi Moore for The Substance, Carla Sofia Gascon for Emilia Perez, Emma Stone for Kinds of Kindness, and Zendaya for Challengers. So both Challengers and The Substance campaigned in the comedy musical categories. I wasn't sure about it, particularly The Substance. Challengers, I can see a little bit more being in the comedy category, but still, I just, I don't know. They both make way more sense in the drama category to me, especially for me, Substance being sight unseen still at this rate. Just on the surface, when you read what the film's about and when you see the trailers and stuff, I just don't always get a huge, like, oh, you're laughing your ass off kind of... It's the same as The Martian, for example. That's one that even won this category for Best Film, and I believe Best Actor, Comedy Musical a few years ago. Almost 10 years ago now. But, yeah, and this is another one. Once I got down to it, I'm like, ooh, but I do like this contender, I do like this contender, I do like this. So I'm leaving out, the first one I'm leaving out, Amy Adams for Night Bitch. It's one that did kind of fall off the wagon. Amy Adams, they could just name check her because she has been nominated so many times at the Globes, has been nominated more times by the Globes than really any other body, I believe, aside from maybe SAG. Yeah, so they do like her. And it's, I don't know, Night Bitch also does not really have a lot of traction in the comedy musical category for film. I think some of these other contenders, especially like Erivo and Gascon and Madison, arguably possibly also Demi Moore and Zendaya, both of them I think have more overall juice with their film also being more in play for comedy musical than, say, something like Night Bitch. That would also go for June Squibb for Thelma, who's someone I did have in for a while. And a couple of these, by the way, I should say, full disclosure, I have had in because I was worried that Demi Moore and Zendaya would both get booted over to the drama side. So I'm like, okay, well, it's no use putting them in if they're eventually going to be taken out. But I will say one thing, though, and that is the Emma Stone thing, Kinds of Kindness. Even though it's been one that supposedly Searchlight has not been really campaigning that hard, I think this is one that could just get in because it is Emma Stone, previous winner multiple times here at the Globes. Also, it's from a known director who they've liked before. So I just think it feels like a bit of a, it's not like a super long shot, but it feels like one, it's like, I had it predicted pretty early, and I've just kind of stuck with it. Those that have seen the movie, I think, will recognize that Emma is still really good in it, even if it's not clearly, on the level of a performance like Poor Things or anything. But, yeah. Yep, you got it. Sometimes it's like, okay, if Yorgos has a movie out, sometimes those auteurs can get their actors in, even if the movie itself doesn't play as well. Okay, so moving on to the Best Actor Comedy Musical side. I have Jesse Eisenberg for Real Pain, Michael Keaton for Beetlejuice, Gabriel LaBelle for Saturday Night, Jesse Plemons for Kinds of Kindness, Glenn Powell for Hitman, and Sebastian Stan for A Different Man. And these six I feel a little more comfy with. The couple spoilers that I'm really keeping an eye on here are, first of all, Ryan Reynolds for Deadpool. Deadpool and Wolverine, I should say, the third one in the series. That feels like the first one got in for comedy musical. It also got in for his performance here at the Globes, so it's definitely within striking distance. Ryan Gosling for Fall Guy, even though I don't think, again, it's one that's hit the campaign trail very hard. They could just name check the celebrity. They've done that several times in the past. You can the most infamous case probably being both Angelina Jolie and I believe both Angelina Jolie and Johnny Depp being nominated for The Tourist. At least Depp was nominated for The Tourist, which is a movie that I think many Globes voters even at the time would have said, I don't think we even saw that one, but it's Johnny Depp, so name check him. Otherwise, you do have a previous Golden Globe favorite in Hugh Grant, who's up for Heretic. again, it's one of these horror pictures that's campaigning in comedy musical, even though on the surface it doesn't seem at all like a comedy or a musical. So I'd look out for that one. The only other one I'll name check here as a possible one would be maybe Robbie Williams for Better Man. It's kind of a late release. I'm not sure if enough Globe voters have seen it. There's also the whole deal about the motion capture and everything, which I don't know if they love those. Historically, it's not like we've seen Andy Serkis nominated 4 or 5 times here at the Globes for his motion capture performances or anything. So I don't know. I'll just name drop it just in case it pops up tomorrow. Moving on to the actress drama race. My 6 here are Marianne Jean-Baptiste for Hard Truths, Angelina Jolie for Maria, Nicole Kidman for Baby Girl, Saoirse Ronan for The Outrun, Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here, and Kate Winslet for Lee. Those are my 6. And I think these are all right. I felt it was a little strange because both Tilda Swinton and Julianne Moore for The Room Next Door, they've both been past nominees here at the Globes. If I'm not mistaken, both also... no, I don't think Tilda's won before here at the Globes, just off the top of my head. Maybe she has. I'm just off the top of my head, I'm not remembering which one she would have won for, but because I think she lost a few races. I think didn't she only win BAFTA when she won the Oscar for Michael Clayton or something? That sounds about right. But anyways, yeah. Otherwise, I know Pamela Anderson for the Last Showgirl has been one that I've seen quite a few people talk about, and she's somebody that I guess has been out campaigning a little bit. And it is, again, famous person kind of playing against type and everything, or possibly playing against type a little bit as far as doing a more dramatic film about the subject matter. And it's one I've heard a lot of people just really gush about the performance, but I think it maybe in a less, I shouldn't say less competitive year, because I feel like in this case you got Angelina, yeah, she looks pretty solid. Nicole looks pretty solid here. Saoirse's kind of, we'll see if The Outrun makes it. Hard Truths, we'll see if the Globes make it. This kind of, not say it's like, it's make or break here for Marianne Jean-Baptiste, but if she can't get in here when it's a separate category for comedy versus musical, comedy musical versus drama, I think she's going to struggle going forward if she can't even make the 6 here. And that's, and that's possible. I mean, we could see, Hard Truths, I think, would do better at BAFTA overall. I can see her getting one of the 6 slots there, for example. In Best Actress, but even then, it might be a little late. We do see a lot of, again, frequent overlap between voters at BAFTA and the Oscars, where sometimes you see those BAFTA or sometimes even BAFTA-only contenders, not only the ones that got into BAFTA and other places, but sometimes BAFTA-only, they'll carry over, and enough voters do it. I think we just actually name-dropped one here in the other category, Jesse Plemons. Famously got in only at BAFTA for Power of the Dog, and even though he was one early on, some people liked in that category. Cody Smith-McPhee kind of took over, and then it felt like he was the only one to get in, and then at the last second, BAFTA put in Jesse Plemons, so I'm like, I think I'll go Jesse Plemons. And as I recall, again, that was the only place, unless I'm now misremembering, and he got in at SAG as well, but, God, okay, yeah, there's too much stuff to triple back on and stuff, so we're going to just, somebody can fact-check me on that if I'm wrong about it. Okay, let's move on to the actor drama race. And my 6 here are Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Timothée Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, Daniel Craig for Queer, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, Ralph Fiennes for Conclave, and my 6th spot, I'm going to go with Paul Mescal for Gladiator 2. The one I actually had in here for a couple weeks, and now I've dropped him just because I haven't heard much more on him, is Barry Keoghan, actually, or Keoghan. I've heard both pronunciations. I haven't heard his name in a while, but Bird. He has a small movie, Bird, out, which I've heard. I heard a little rumor that said, yep, the Globes voters actually like that one quite a bit. So I was considering it. I was kind of bouncing back and forth on it, and I didn't know. Gladiator 2 feels like one they're seeing, so I'm like, okay. And Paul, okay, this one I am going to triple check, because as I recall, Paul Mescal, didn't he miss at the Globes when he got nominated for After Sun? I thought he missed there at the Globes that year, but because I think his was one. Let's see, or maybe he did get in. Hold on, searching. No, he's never been nominated by the Globes. Okay. I don't know. Again, Gladiator 2, it's one they're seeing. We're not sure how many more, just because a couple voters liked Bird doesn't mean all the voters have seen Bird and liked it, or liked him in it. He is a past nominee, though. That could factor into it. That's part of the reason why I was thinking about it, too. Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice, he does have a clear divide. One is in comedy musical. One of his other performances that he's been touted for this year is The Apprentice, and that's in drama. So it could be. I feel like with The Apprentice, you got to go with either both Jeremy Strong and Sebastian Stan. I think you got to go with both getting in, and not just one or the other. So that kind of drew me a little bit, because I wasn't 100% sure about Jeremy Strong getting in for supporting actor. Same here. And I look at the rest of the list here. It's like John David Washington for The Piano Lesson. Yes, John David did get nominated for Black Klansman here at the Globes, and then he got nominated at SAG, and then I think missed most everything else for Black Klansman. Otherwise, it's like, okay, Cillian Murphy for Small Things Like These. I'm not sure how well that one's been seen. He just won this thing last year. I'm not sure. Kingsley Ben-Adir for Bob Marley, One Love. That movie came out in February. Was a box office hit and everything. And critics, most critics I've heard, maybe they didn't like the movie overall, but his performance was not one that had a ton of negative Nancy's around it. But I just look, and again, I'm like, I just don't know if I can pull the trigger on any of them. And again, The Apprentice being what it is, it's one that either just shows up tomorrow and everybody's just like, oh, okay, the Globe voters saw it and liked it. You either got to take that risk, or you got to just say, nope, I'm not sure that they're going to see it, so I got to, swivel around it and say, let's go with something else. But yeah. Moving on to the director race. The director race, I got to 5 pretty quick here for Best Director. Getting that 6th one, though, I thought about it and I bounced back and forth between a few contenders. Here's what I came up with. Jacques Audiard for Emilia Perez. Sean Baker for Anora. Edward Berger for Conclave. Brady Corbett for The Brutalist. Coraline Fairjet for The Substance, and Denis Villeneuve for Dune Part 2. Here's the big thing, and I looked through a couple of the past nominees here the last few years, and one big thing really stuck out to me. And it was like, whoa, hang on a minute, wait a minute, with Coraline getting in. And that is female directors at the Globes. The last 4 or 5 years, female directors have been doing much better at the Globes. Arguably, I think when you get all the voting bodies together, I think we've seen the Globes go for more directing nominees that are women in that particular category, I think, than most other ones. Aside from BAFTA, when they had like the kind of rule about they have to nominate at least 2 women or 3 women or whatever the hell that rule was that I think they got rid of last year. Aside from that, I think it's like, yep, we've seen more female directors nominated here at the Globes than we do at the Oscars the last few years, more than we saw at Critics' Choice, I think. I believe so, at least. I'm trying to remember if there was any other weird ones at the Critics' Choice in the last couple of years that I'm forgetting about. But yeah, and The Substance, again, feels like one that they're watching. It's a movie that's about, is about movie making as well, even though it's kind of an off subject matter and stuff, and it's, kind of one of those cool movies, so to speak, that, the people, it's kind of a discovery movie. This year, arguably, some people have also said that about The Brutalist, but that one I think played early enough, and it's gotten enough buzz built up around it now that it's not so much a discovery movie as something like The Substance. I just think it feels like one where it's like, if I don't put it in, I'm going to regret it. So I'm like, okay, Coraline, there you go. So she knocked out for me. I did have Steve McQueen in here for a while for Blitz, because Blitz, again, aside from BAFTA, Blitz has its best shot, I think, here at the Globes as far as making a big kind of announcing point that, like, hey, I know, with the campaign of Blitz kind of being down here in the last few weeks, this could have been a big bounce back spot where it's like, boom, nope, Blitz is going to be, more solidly in the race. It felt like the Globes was a good spot for that. I think we're just going to have to wait and see how much BAFTA loves it. I think BAFTA will enjoy it. Arguably, probably more nominations will come out of BAFTA than we could end up at the Oscars overall for the movie. But otherwise, it's like, yep, Dune Part 2, I think with Denis, they like Denis. He's been nominated quite a few times here by the Globes. Edward Berger, with Conclave. Conclave feels like one that the Globes will really like. Emilia Perez, I think, is going to be well seen enough. They're going to like it. Same with Anora and The Brutalist. So yeah, I think all of them are more solid. It's just that 6th spot. It's like, okay, do you go John M. Chu? Because this could be, one of the easy spots for him to get in for Wicked. That being said, I would not at all be opposed to people that are betting on him to get nominated at Critics' Choice, though, later this week. I think he, very easily could get in at Critics' Choice, since they allow up to, 7, 8, 9, however many goddamn slots they want until they say, okay, that's enough. The other one that I kind of waffled on just for a little bit, but I ended up saying no to, was Ridley Scott for Gladiator 2. Ridley, he's been nominated quite a few times here by the Globes, but and Gladiator 2 is one that is being watched, but we'll see. I just I looked at these, I'm like, okay, well, some of these I think are going to be maybe a little bit more popular than something like Gladiator 2, so it's a close one for me, but I ended up going no. And then the other one, Ramel Ross, again, if Nickel Boys is one that the Globes voters kind of go against my initial thought, which is that movie's going to struggle here at the Globes, if that entire thought process is just dead wrong and they just really like the movie, then Ramel Ross could easily take up one of those 6 slots. All right. Moving on now to the motion picture comedy musical category. My 6 here are A Real Pain, Anora, Emilia Perez, Saturday Night, The Substance, and Wicked. Those are my 6. I've had Hitman in here for a while, and that's off the prognosis that it will be Glenn Powell as the kind of runaway favorite to win that category. Since then, we've now seen A Real Pain, even though it hasn't done like spectacular, box office buffo business or anything. It is one that the actors, I think, are really going to gravitate toward, because it's kind of 2 actors in the whole movie, more or less. Obviously, there's other characters in the movie, but it's mostly those 2. Eisenberg is likely not going to get nominated for director, so, we could easily see him sneak into the acting race. He'll probably get nominated for his screenplay, and with that, I think he can win the Globe as well. He's been a past nominee here at the Globes as well, so that helps him. Glenn Powell will be a first time up for Hitman. And even though, yes, Hitman, it's a Netflix movie, it's easily accessible, and it is Richard Linklater behind it, it's not one that's, more heavily in the Oscar race. Usually the winner is one that they typically think is going to get nominated at the Globe, or at the Oscars later on. I think of, like, Amy Adams winning over, like, Emily Blunt for Big Eyes, the other Tim Burton one that starts with Big Eyes. Her winning there, it felt like, a gamble that she's going to get nominated at the Oscars, and she didn't. Also, part of that, I think, is just they really like Amy Adams. But that being said, I think with this one, Hitman, I think I have dropping out for that reason. Challengers, again, I think they like Zendaya. That's the star power. They want her at the ceremony. I'm not sure if that movie, is one that the Globes voters just absolutely have, would put in. Now, Saturday Night, again, has faded quite a bit from, where some of us had put it earlier. I was always a little cautious about putting it in for, like, Best Picture at the Oscars and, like, Best Director, some of those major categories. And I actually avoided it for a while, predicting it in any category. I've got it in for screenplay still at the moment at the Oscars, but it feels like one that's really, really close to being dropped. And again, this feels like, kind of a last stand for this movie. If the Globes voters don't put it up for anything, it's probably done. I just don't see a bounce back point for the movie. Even the SAG Ensemble nomination, which again, 2 months ago, we would have said, it's absolutely getting in for SAG. That would then be in question. And then you got, who's going to overtake it? Possibly a Nora. Possibly, I would even not shy away from the possibility of something like Wicked getting in, which, 2 months ago we would have been like, huh? But yeah, I think Wicked has a good shot at getting in for Ensemble. The Brutalist, I think, stands a better shot than at getting in. A couple of the other ones that last few videos I've been a little more reluctant to put in for that. Let's see. Otherwise, for other possible contenders in that category, though, after Hitman and Challengers, I just don't know what else. I mean, A Different Man, I've got it in for a couple acting categories. Maybe it can break through for picture. Beetlejuice was kind of popular at the box office. Maybe. But I'm not 100% sure about that one's chances either. And the last category being Best Picture or Best Motion Picture Drama. My 6 here are Blitz, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Gladiator 2, Sing Sing, and The Brutalist. It's a little strange. I do have 2 sequels in. I'm leaving out Nickel Boys. I'm leaving out A Complete Unknown. I'm leaving out even something like Room Next Door, September 5, a couple of those ones that, I think are not totally done for this particular category, but they're ones to mention. With Blitz, again, I feel like this is kind of not a last stand for that movie, but it certainly feels like one where it's like, okay, if Blitz does struggle here, it only gets maybe Saoirse Ronan, or maybe it doesn't get anything. Okay, then you're like, oh boy. Then it's like, okay, you got to really hope that BAFTA really likes the movie. If you're Apple and you're like, okay, that's kind of hopefully enough voters cross over that we can get it into some more categories and maybe get in for Best Picture still, but it'll feel like more of a long shot. Gladiator 2, again, it feels like one they're watching, so I have that one in. The other 4, I think, are more solid, but yeah, again, with Nickel Boys, it's like, I'm not sure where else it's going to get a ton of support. You know, again, with supporting actress, maybe. Screenplay, maybe, but it's just, I don't know. I'm just not sure, and it's not, I just don't feel comfortable leaving it up for just drama picture and then putting nothing else behind it. It's just not something that we see a ton happen. Normally these are, in these film categories, you got to have at least one other nomination behind you. I mean, you can totally see movies like, I believe The Hangover from 2009 was one. I think that one had no other nominations, but I'm going to triple check that, check my math on that. Yeah, let's see. It was nominated for Motion Picture, actually won that category, but it had no other support. They couldn't put Bradley Cooper in, they didn't put Zach Galifianakis, nobody else from the movie in that could have been, or even the screenplay or anything else. Nope. They left that one just by itself, and it actually won. But yeah, with that one, I'm like, again, I'm just not sure that it's got enough backing in some of those other key categories that it, and maybe we're overdue. Maybe, another case like The Hangover, not to say that Nickel Boys would go on to win the category, but, maybe we're due for another contender like that to get in for just the film category by itself. I'm not sure. I'm just not willing to gamble that right now, and I feel okay with my other ones. Complete Unknown has kind of broken a little late. I think it's probably, Timothée Chalamet's, the only one I have in for the film. I feel okay with that because it's like, okay, Chalamet's been nominated a couple times by the Globes before. I'm not sure if enough of them have seen it. I'm sure there were definitely select screenings for Globes voters and everything, but I don't know. I just feel a little uncomfortable with that one, and I'm not sure. It's like, would I drop Blitz? Would I drop maybe Gladiator 2? Is Sing Sing maybe not as big a lock as we're a lot of us are thinking? I don't know. I guess we'll find out tomorrow, obviously. Oh, I guess, yeah, I did forget there's the box office achievements category or whatever. I predict real categories, not fake ones, so that's my joke for that one, but yeah. Realistically, with that one, it's like they get, 8? I think it was 8 nominees last year. It's like, okay, put in, obviously your 2 big moneymakers this year are Deadpool and Wolverine, and Inside Out 2. Those 2 will get in. Beetlejuice will probably get in, because that was something of a box office hit. What else? What else has made money this year? I mean, Despicable Me made some money, but I don't know if they'd go with that one. That one I'm just, kind of like last year, it's just like, okay, whatever they want to put in, that's fine, but it's not really, again, definitely not one that carries over to various other categories, aside from, you could argue, maybe the PGA list sometimes will go with some more big money makers over the more prestigious films. Sometimes that happens, but we'll see. Otherwise, really quick, I'll just say, I believe from my standings here, and I didn't put an accurate count on this yet, but Emilia Perez I have getting, how many nominations here? I think 9 nominations, is that right? Yeah, I've got it in for 9 different nominations tomorrow, so I think that one would lead. And actually, if Selena Gomez gets in, that'd be the first time we've seen a Golden Globe contender get 10 nominations. Boy, is that a record? I think that might be a record if it gets in for Selena Gomez, too. So that's another reason why I was a little shaky on her getting in. And we'll see. I mean, if it shocks us tomorrow and let's say Zoe Saldana's in, maybe it misses for score, maybe it misses for screenplay. What if even Carla Sofia Gascon all of a sudden misses? It doesn't feel like it will happen, but what if the Globe voters just, for whatever reason, don't feel comfortable nominating her in that category with the whole transgender thing? What if there's enough of them that are just too conservative about it and they just don't want to name drop her? Well, we'll see. We'll see. Because I thought about this too, and it's actually something that kind of gave me some pause. I'm like, here's the thing. Emilia Perez, I didn't mention it the other day in the updated Oscar votes. I think it will get in for international feature. I feel pretty comfortable with about that. And I did switch it, and I actually changed it in, and I have it in for one of the 5 slots now for Best Makeup. That gets it to 14 nominations. That has it tied with All About Eve, Titanic, La La Land. It'd be the 4th film to get 14 nominations. I'm like, oh boy. wow, is it really? And it's not even projected as a clear frontrunner at this stage. I mean, usually when you have a movie like that that gets to that level of respect and number of nominations in the Academy, it is a Titanic. It's an All About Eve. It's one of these movies like, or even La La Land. It's a projected frontrunner. It's one that the voters have clearly saw and liked. And even at this stage, even though Emilia Perez, the critics have really enjoyed it, it made a big splash at Cannes and everything. It didn't win with audience members at TIFF. It feels like one that, it feels like it could come up short in quite a few of these key categories. Zoe Saldana at this point is kind of your only major frontrunner for any of these major categories. Like, Carla, I think, she's a possibility to win Best Actress, but I would say Mikey Madison is ahead of her as far as who would win. It's probably not going to win for Director, even though I think Jacques Audiard could definitely get in. I don't see it winning for Screenplay. I don't have it really as a huge threat in any of the tech categories, aside from, being a musical and everything. They could end up giving it the Best Original Song category and maybe Score, but otherwise, I don't see them being a frontrunner for anything except Zoe Saldana. And that feels weird. So it's like, whoa, this feels really odd to put it in and have it tie as for a major record, 14 nominations. And yet, it doesn't feel like a strong frontrunner for Best Picture. It's in the mix. I would definitely say it's a top 3, top 4 contender. But, I would argue Conclave, you could argue, is ahead of it. You could argue that The Brutalist is ahead of it. You could argue that Anora is ahead of it. I've even seen some people still say Sing Sing is ahead of Emilia Perez. And yet, that one's going to be the most nominated? I'm getting there's some weird mixed signals that we're getting here from all this stuff. And, I have it leading nominations tomorrow here at the Globes, but, Conclave I have not too far behind. The Brutalist won't be far behind. I think Wicked I have Wicked, I think I have that one in 4 categories here tomorrow. I've got it in 2 acting categories, Score and Picture, possibly Director, but again, I'm a little bit more sure on 4. The Brutalist I believe I have in for 7. Conclave I counted, I have that one in for 7. I think A Real Pain is in play for 4 categories. And it's basically the same 4 that I have in at the Oscars, so yeah. Otherwise, I think Dune Part 2 I think I have in for 3 categories. Anora I have getting 4 as well, with Screenplay, Actress, Director, and Film. I think even Wild Robot is going to have 3 nominations, I believe. Let's see. We mentioned the Brutalist, but it's like I kind of see those as your more nominated films. I think something like The Substance. I have that only getting a couple nominations at the Oscars. I have it in for 3 categories here tomorrow, and maybe I'm a little cold on that. Maybe it is a Screenplay and a Supporting Actress contender. I think it could top out at 5. I don't see it getting more than 5, but maybe that's one that'll surprise us and be a little more nominated here tomorrow, but we'll see. Okay, I think that's enough for now. I will be here tomorrow. We'll do the live reactions, pending any YouTube ads. That happened last year with the Oscar live predictions. I was like going through, or live reactions rather, because they were announcing stuff, and it's like, for Best Film Editing, and then they played an ad. I'm like, what the hell? And then, I've actually heard from a couple people, they said, nope, I got an ad too. So if you don't have YouTube Plus or whatever the hell the name is, you're going to get an ad potentially, but hopefully we don't see that tomorrow with the Globes. I think they have their own streaming service and everything, just through their website or something, so we'll plan on that. But I'll be able to talk about it tomorrow. I'll actually have a little bit, not a ton of time, I won't have all day to talk about them, but I will be able to go a little more in-depth as far as what's right and what's wrong with my predictions and stuff, like what I got right, what I got wrong. And, a little bit of a peek at, okay, what could win, and stuff, just based on the early totals and stuff. And we'll count up, which films got multiple nominations, so on and so forth. So we'll spend a little bit, I'll be able to spend a little bit of time with it tomorrow. But, that's what I got for now. So, good day tomorrow for Emilia Perez, I'm predicting. A good day for Conclave. Good day for The Brutalist. And a few of those other ones I think are going to be just fine. So, that's what I got for now.